Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee, where I've lived for many years. This is not an American flag. This is a logo from, I don't know, Ralph Lauren or something. I bought this probably 25 years, 30 years ago, and it's still good. And it has no pentagrams on it. It's a kind of a similarity, but it's not a flag. It's a logo from this company. Okay. So, here we are again. The day before that horrible pagan holiday, huh? And it's the 24th. Sorry, we lost the network. And it means I should change the network, so give me a minute. So, anyway, I got cut off. So I was saying, we had terrible rain for about 36 hours, and the roof was flooding. And this garbage bucket called Netanyahu, under his 20 years of torturous rule, watching him degrade Israel as an enemy of the Jewish people, a self-hating Jew, or whatever you want to call him, serving with the powers of the air, they had a law in the early 70s that was a pretty good law to protect tenants from landlords. And at some point in time, they started creating waivers where the landlord could ask you to waive this law. So you would be signing something that says the law doesn't apply to this lease. All the landlords did it, so they basically neutralized the law, which is idiotic. But it might have happened before Netanyahu, I don't know. They were all bad. They're all serving the powers of the air since 48. That's why they started Israel. They were trying a new approach. So, the landlords tell, not only do they have you pay the taxes, not only do they have you post-date checks, which is legal in Israel, so they deposit 12 checks in their account, and every month the bank cracks the checks, and if the check doesn't clear, you got massive problems. So if you want to impose a law they passed around 2017 that says the landlord has to do repairs on the house, what you have to do, I mean, it says you could deduct the repairs from the house. Well, how do you do that if you prepay the rent? You can't. You see how crooked this place is? Entirely corrupt from head to toe. The whole country. Never used to be that way, but it is. It's full of S-spots. 2/3, I would guess. So, I'm having a cup of soup. So, when you have a repair, the landlord just says, I'm not going to do it. You fix it or you move out. I won't go after you. So, it's a royal pain in the neck to move out, and an expense. And you got to find another place, and the other place is likely going to be the same way. And you pay the property taxes, you pay the rent. It's just sick, And this is to prevent Jews from moving to Israel. That's what Netanyahu's game is. And he's changing his game now, and it worked. People didn't want to come here. So, it used to be years ago, many of the big companies, with their voicemail, you could switch it over to get assistance in Israel, in English, Russian, Arabic, and Hebrew. You could take your choice. They eliminated the English. They don't want, the Israeli people don't want Anglos, as they call them, coming here because they have educations, they know how to run a business, and they get a lot of jobs, and the Israelis don't, so they discriminate against them. So, hey, we got ours in Israel, now we're going to make sure you don't get yours. That is absolutely breaking the law and the teachings of Yeshua, and that's what they do. Only the black-hearted really are going to be landlords. There's many houses you see in Israel where they're not for sale. Well, they might be for sale, but nobody lives in them. And if you ask them to rent them, they say no, they don't want to. Because they're not heartless people. They don't have the stomach to do it. Now, years ago, when the interest rates were reasonable, people didn't want to bother becoming a landlord. They would just invest money in the bank and get interest. But Netanyahu destroyed the economy of Israel for the regular people. Just the elite and the expats can survive here, really. So anyway, enough on that. But everything is bad here, you know. It's a testing. People, I've spoken to tons of people over the years, and they have stories about how the Lord told them to go to Israel and encouraged them, and they get by, actually. They get by. But there's tons of people that have come here, and they stay a while, and they go back. It's just too ridiculous to live here. They can't understand it. Now, they're not operating spiritually. And they're operating in the flesh. But I haven't been in America in ages, but I hear it's very bad there now. Israel's been very bad for probably 20 years, 25 years. Even 30 maybe. So, the wealthy expert class, they don't suffer it. They buy their own house. They buy new cars every 3 years. They travel frequently and do their expensive shopping outside of Israel, so they buy their clothes out of Israel. You come back in and the clothes have the tags on it, and if they happen to look through your luggage, you'll have to pay tax on it. But if you take the clothes and you dry clean them or something like that in the hotel when you're traveling, and there's no tags on them, all they see is your clothes. They don't understand anything else. And they bring back computers and smartphones and tablets the same way. Cameras, jewelry, all sorts of stuff. So a lot of them will make a point of leaving Israel every 90 days, and they get whatever they need taken care of. They'll go to Rome, France, the UK sometimes, but France and Rome is only 2.5 hours by air. I think France is about 3.5. And women will buy their perfumes, their makeup, jewelry, clothing, other goods. Enjoy the food, the entertainment, travel around, and come back. Some people go every 6 months, some go every 3 months, some go more frequently because of business, but Usually anywhere from 3 to 6 months will do it, you know. Hey, bring back things for the children and stuff like that, you know. So, like I tell you, this place is really rough. Most of the Messianics and the church people and the Israelis, secular Israelis, Orthodox, hate to talk like this. They don't want to do it. They want to make you think everything is honky-dory here. It's not. The crime rate generally isn't very much at all, except for terrorism, which jacks it up. And a few cities and parts of a few cities in Israel, you have a crime issue, like parts of Tel Aviv, maybe even sections of Haifa. But in Jerusalem, you have terrorist sections. But most of Israel is pretty, very, very low crime. The police try to stop criminals, but the system is against the police because it's very difficult to get convictions. The police may do something, investigate, and then they can't really get a good prosecution going unless there's overwhelming evidence, and then the chances of any real punishment are low, unless it's a repeat offender or burglar or something like that, which you have almost none of, or something else, drugs, and they try to keep them out of the system, but people go in the system. They have a debtor's prison here. If you have a debt and you have the money and won't pay, you go to jail till you pay. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. So the banks are horrible. The government helps you collect debts as long as you go through the courts. They'll get the money for you, suck it out of bank accounts, stuff like that. It's a terrible system. Imagine in America if they collected the debts for people, what would life would be like? It'd be ridiculous. So my wife has to go to court today because some jerk hit us, if you might remember, 6 years ago with her car. She drove out of the intersection and hit us in the doors, right by my door. And our car rolled over. Okay? The cop came, and as far as I could tell, they gave her a ticket for that. She failed to yield the right of way. And she just sued in small claims court, which is a $10,000 maximum limit, and you can't bring a lawyer. She sued the rent-a-car company because then we rented our cars long term, and we had insurance through them. So she tried to get the rent-a-car company to pay all this money to repair her car after she hit us. We got hit with a $2,000 deductible, which our insurance company never gave back to us. And we got a very small settlement. And she sued the rent-a-car company and also my wife, who was driving the car, after she T-boned us and flipped our car over. You understanding this? So my wife has to go to court in a little while and give her testimony, but the rent-a-car company is responsible for any debt we incur, and they put that in writing. It's absolutely ridiculous. They served her when she was in America by serving me. Okay? You could do that in Israel, serve the spouse, it's service on the other one. But she was in America. So I didn't know, and I couldn't figure out how you notify the court. What do you do? So I knew this guy as a lawyer. He's a pretty good guy, an Orthodox guy, and I got a hold of him. And he said he would help me, and he billed me very low hourly rate, and he filed papers with the court that she never saw the complaint. She's out of the country. She doesn't know exactly when she's going to be back because of the war. And he petitioned the court to set the date aside until she could come back to Israel. They didn't do that. He told me there's a 20% chance they would tell her to testify on Zoom from America. Even though he told us she's not fluent in Hebrew and wouldn't be able to handle the testimony, and where are you going to find a certified translator in America? You're not. So then they had the date set for today, and he told them that she was back in the country, so they said, well, she has to appear. So they sued us and the rental-car company. After they T-boned us, the car got towed away. We lost $2,000, and we had to go in ambulances to the hospital, and they released us. And then she sues us. You see what life here is like? I don't think that she's trying to pull corruption, because the rent-a-car company is a huge company, multi-millions. And I'm pretty sure they got greater protection, corruption than she does. The rent-a-car company can't send a lawyer to appear in court because it's small claims court. So what they do instead is they hire students that graduated law school, but they're not yet members of the bar. Okay? So they could appear on behalf of the rent-a-car company. So it's like being a lawyer, but you're not yet a lawyer, so you can appear. So please pray that we have a good outcome of this. It's going to be a little bit later today. Pray we get a good outcome of this. We're just being picked on. I mean, she T-boned us in the door. And what is she saying? We hit her with the door? I mean, you see how stupid it is? But that's how these Israelis are. That's why 2/3 are getting cut off. Part of it is she knows we're new immigrants, and it's trying to take advantage of us. So it's very disconcerting, this thing. We didn't know she would have to testify till Thursday night. Friday and Saturday things have closed, so we wouldn't have been able to get a certified translator. So she's got to go show up in court without a certified translator and see how that goes. This is life in Israel. See, people here are tested heavily, the believers. The S-bots, no. Now they are with the war, but the S-bots normally aren't tested heavily. The unclean spirits use the corrupt system to make sure their businesses work. They get good jobs, they get promotions, they get a good place to live. But, not always does an S-bot landlord behave correctly with an S-bot tenant. I've seen them turn also. They get ugly. Generally not as ugly, but they get ugly. there's a law in Israel that every house has to have a bomb shelter. So what the landlords did, because Netanyahu let them, is they take a big private house and they break it into 2, 3, or even 4 apartments, which is illegal, but they do it. And only one of those apartments is going to have the bomb shelter. And if you complain in court about that, they say, well, you knew it when you moved in. If you say, well, there was no war, well, that's it. It's absolutely absurd what they do. It's just incredible. I do understand that if you want to put a tenant out on the street and he resists against you, it takes about 11 months. So Israel does make a marked point of trying to eliminate homelessness. That they try. You could try to get on disability here, which gives you a little bit more rights, but it's an absurdly long, tedious, arduous process. People hire lawyers to get through it, and they try to knock you out every step of the way. But if there's really something wrong with you, you can get it. And then there's the question of what extent they're going to give you. They can give you 20%, 50%, 100%. It's not a lot of money. And then you could get reductions in utility bills and other things. But I've never done it. I don't think I'm disabled enough to get it. If you got something wrong with you and you don't want to get this surgery with their butchers, they could probably tell you that you're not qualified because you can fix it and you don't want to. So they're basically, they'll pay for what they call a metappellant, which is often somebody from the Philippines who move in your house with you and take care of you. But for that, you've got to be completely unable to function. Like, you can't go to the bathroom yourself, you can't take a shower yourself, you can't go to the kitchen and make a cup of coffee and stuff like that. But there's a tremendous amount of people in Israel that have this. And why does Netanyahu do that? Because it creates a drain on the people of Israel. The government doesn't pay for it. I mean, they do, but then they get it out of the tax revenue, so it raises taxes. To encourage the Israelis to fight with each other, some years ago, maybe 12, 15, under Netanyahu's cursed reign, they eased the requirements to go to law school tremendously. And law school here is nothing like America.
Are you okay? Are you okay, Tikva?
What it is you go to your college, your bachelor's, so you're going to take economics, physics, chemistry, physical ed, English, art, whatever, and also graduate law school. So they're poorly trained, and they about doubled the amount of lawyers in Israel, and these guys and gals can't make a good living. So they become unscrupulous and they take lousy cases, anything. And many of them could no longer even work in the field of law because there's so many of them. But it encourages all these frivolous, unethical lawsuits. So that was Netanyahu's doing, and the people in Israel are not astute enough to see through what he did, but I do. They think he's pro-Israel. They don't understand his job is to destroy the place, as Biden's job. So let me do our praise. There is no God like, we're a Bible-believing site. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 So the explanation spiritually is this: God doesn't want Israel full of people that he doesn't want here. Like, if they opened up immigration, the place would have 2 or 3 million Christians probably. And they would be spreading the other gospel and the other Jesus and receiving other spirits all throughout Israel. And he doesn't want to put that garbage on the country of Israel, so they can't get in. And many of the believers can't get in because, I could keep going. Believe me, it's a testing ground for the people, because they're very shortly going to receive eternal life in Zechariah 12 when they look at verse 10. First he pours his spirit out on them, and then they look upon the one whom they have pierced and mourn for him, and that's Yeshua. And in John 6:40, those that believe and look upon Jesus shall have eternal life. When you see him, you shall be changed. And I've covered this a million times. That was the great hope of the apostles, and that could come next week, this week, whatever. We're getting very ready for that, okay? And he pours his spirit out on them first, so they're believers, then they look upon him. Read it yourself. Churches never explain this, never. They don't want you to know that. They don't want the people drawn to Israel. They want the people drawn to this cockamamie church and running around with their pre-trib rapture things and all their other crazy doctrines. And that's what they do. And he doesn't want that in Israel. So they're not here. Also, they're really anti-Israel. They're into replacement theology. It's all about the church. Israel's going to get all the bad things, and the church is going to get the good things, and that's insane. The punishment for Israel's over. We're in the year of redemption, and the change is this. Hosea 6:1 and 2, he put the punishment on Israel, a double punishment for 2,000 years. And in the year of recompenses, he punishes them for what they do to Israel. And, you're seeing this now. One guy was cursing Israel on TV, an Islamic guy, and he had a heart attack and passed away from it right there on the stage. Another guy, I put this up on my Telegram, was saying very bad things about Israel and what's going to happen to them. And he said, if this isn't the case, may the floor come out from under my feet. And that's what happened right after that. The floor broke, opened up, and he fell. So the Lord was showing us in 2 instances that it is the year of recompenses, the payback. He has a controversy with the nations over Zion, and that's what this is about. That's what all this is about. And they lose. And look what happened to Hamas. They say there's something like over 20,000 dead in Gaza and 50 or 60 or 70,000, something like that, wounded. The place is a shambles. The rich neighborhoods that Hamas lived in are gone. Rubble. I'm guessing 80 or even 85% of the housing has been busted up or destroyed. So one of the big mysteries that we have to understand is, what is Netanyahu up to? By blowing all the structures up, they can't stay in Gaza unless they want to live in tents for a few years until there's a rebuild, which would mean the nations have to cough up probably $500 billion or 200 billion or something like that. And I don't think they're going to do that. And the money would wind up in the pockets of Hamas to a great extent anyway. They would just extort them with threat of death. if they don't kick back a percentage, a good percentage. So the UN passed a resolution the other day in the Security Council, which is enforceable. And it said neither party, nobody, shall interfere with increased humanitarian aid coming in. Why? Israel was letting plenty of humanitarian aid in. But what happened is Hamas stole it at gunpoint and kept it for themselves. But that's all documented. They shot a guy once, they shot at them. It's common knowledge. So they're saying Hamas has to let the humanitarian aid in, and so does Israel. What does this involve? Well, it was undefined, but typically it's medical and food and water. Will it be considered fuel as well? Well, they'll try to push it to include fuel for sure. But at this point, it's not highly relevant because Hamas and their tunnels are so busted up, with or without fuel, they're coming to a rapid end. The amount of rockets coming in has significantly decreased. I would say a good 75, even 85% down. I mean, you hardly hear red alerts anymore. Once in a while they get a barrage out, probably because they built a truck with the missile launcher of 8 or 10 or 12 or 16 rockets on it, and they drive the truck someplace, open the tarp on the roof, and fire the missiles and then drive away. But now Israel knows that that's how they're doing it, so we're eliminating that. We've destroyed, as of 2-3 days ago, maybe 4 days ago, 1,500 tunnel entrances and exits on the 300-mile tunnel network. And you better believe Lebanon has a certain amount of tunnels too. They were building them to come into Israel, but Israel knocked that stuff out. Doubtful they have any. When they say come into Israel, what they're usually talking about is maybe 100 yards in, just to get under the border fence, 200, 300, not 5 miles or anything like that. It's doubtful anything like that will be useful because we have a literal army up at the border with Lebanon. Now it's coming out of the news that a while ago, shortly after the war started, Netanyahu ordered a preemptive attack on Lebanon, which was a very good idea and a necessary idea, and would have saved a lot of destruction and damage to the Israeli real estate and the people. And the planes were en route going to Lebanon to do the preemptive strike, and Biden called Netanyahu, so I'm sure the Israelis told the Americans about it. And Netanyahu told them that Biden had him call the planes back when they were already on their way. That came out yesterday. So Biden is seriously managing the war in a detrimental fashion. Okay? Now they're trying to encourage Israel not to escalate in Lebanon. What Biden's going to do with the Houthis, I don't know. From what I saw in Hamas and in Lebanon, and living here quite a few years and going through several wars with them, with Hamas, and with things happening in Syria and all that, I believe strongly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, by the way the Houthis are behaving, that they have a vast tunnel network and underground bunkers as well. I can't imagine that they do not. Okay? I have no explanation for that. They have to. And that's why they're behaving so bold. So, 3 countries, France, Italy, and one other country, I can't remember, said they're going to patrol the Red Sea on their own. They're not going to put themselves under Biden. They said they'll only go under the European Union or NATO, not when Biden's in charge. So they know he's a backstabber. Um, so there was a ship attacked near India by Iran who got him with a drone, and there was damage, but I don't think any loss of life. And there was another attack after that yesterday in the Red Sea someplace, with the Sea of Oman right under the Red Sea. So the attacks are continuing. The Houthis can attack so many different ways. Drones, swarm drone attacks where they'll send 15, 20, 30, 40 drones at the same time. They could use little man-operated and driven torpedoes where two guys ride on a little jet ski kind of thing that's a torpedo with a percussion detonator on the front of it, probably 1,000 pounds of explosives, and they wear scuba gear with tanks, diving suit with face mask, a hood, rubber suit, and they have air. They have one or two tanks of air, and they take this jet ski type contrivance where it's very close to the boat, headed at the boat. Could be 100 yards, could be 50 yards, 300, and they just they lock the throttle open, and they release this jet ski type of a contrivance, which frequently will fly or move partially underwater, so it's very, very, very hard to spot it. And it's small, so if it comes up on radar, they don't know what it is. It could be debris, it could be a fish, but then it's moving at a high rate of speed, so they could try to attack it, but with what? It's such a tiny target, how are they going to hit it? And if, let's say it's moving at 25, 30 miles an hour, it's not an easy thing to take it out. If they hit the boat with a 1,000-pound warhead, the boat's going to be reasonably damaged. If they hit an aircraft carrier, I doubt it, because the hull is so strong. It might make a dent or make small holes in there, and the guys in the boat that are right on the inside of the wall may suffer some severe percussive force from the blast and get flung around and break bones, bang their head, maybe die, but probably not, just get busted up. But the smaller boats, the destroyers and the missile cruisers, aren't going to take it that well. Even though they're 450, 500 something feet, it's still going to be a horrific impact and probably put the ship, best case, dead in the water. Next best case, dead in the water and on fire. Worst case, taking water and sinking while it's on fire and dead in the water. So they'd have to evacuate. Now, what if they hit it with 2 or 3 torpedoes? Well, there's a good chance it could go down in 15, 30 seconds. And then the guys are going to have a horribly difficult time getting off the boat before it sinks. They could combine these attacks with drone attacks, missile attacks, if it's close enough, artillery attacks. They have UAV boats that could also attack. And America might take down a lot of these drones and a lot of these missiles, I agree. But they'll just keep sending more. And 6 of the major shipping companies have already said no more Red Sea. They're going around Africa. Then Iran goes out and threatens America yesterday, I think. Could be the day before. And okay, I had everybody pray.
I mean, it should be fine according to your Tom. I have no culpability.
Right. So they go lost my train of thought. So they'll take out missiles, drones, and things like that. And there's 6 large maritime vessel carrier companies don't want to go in there. They'd rather go around Africa. So Iran comes out with a new threat, and it says that they're going to close the Mediterranean Sea. Now, if you understand, which you easily should, the impact that that's going to have on Europe is massive. It's going to also impact countries that sell goods to Europe. Of course, China would be in there, America would be in there, India would be in there, and many other countries. So how would they do it? Well, how would they? Well, not easily. If they manage to close it and Biden does nothing much significant, then they could land their ships from the Atlantic without passing into the Mediterranean and offload them in Spain or France, and then put them on trucks and truck them around. Now, that's going to increase the cost of goods sold pretty good. It's not going to mean people can't buy anything. It may go up 5%, 8%. 10% is the maximum, I guess. The offset would be the transit time in the Mediterranean would be reduced because they're not going through the Mediterranean, which could take several days on a ship. But then they'll have to pay to put it on trains and trucks. So this offsets. It's not going to double prices or even 50%. I mean, you might see them gouge and get up 15, 20%, but that's gouging. And it will mess up not just, I mean, is that really going to mess up Israel? Well, not that much, but to some extent. Will it, can they bring, well, the way it'll work is there's this thing called the Straits of Gibraltar, which is where Morocco touches, I believe, Spain. And the distance in this pincher point is as little as 8 miles to a high of 26 miles wide. Now, Algeria wants to do this, and they're to the east next door of Morocco. But they're probably 100 or 200 miles east of the Straits of Gibraltar and then down. So it's a large distance. It seems to me rather unlikely that Algeria could really wage any kind of a serious campaign and get ships. They'd have to have quite long-range anti-ship missiles, which I don't think really exist. They could start putting boats in the water and hijack ships till America stops that, and France will stop it in Italy and other countries, so that'll be very shortly. Drones, they could launch, I believe. They'd be long-range drones and expensive ones, and I don't see them sending swarm attacks of a dozen of those out at the same time. It could happen, but the distance is so great, the warships of the American coalition would pick up the drones headed their way and take them out before they got there. So they don't have a viable way of doing it. However, along comes Morocco, which is a Muslim majority country that dislikes Israel. And they, while they're in the Abraham Accords, they still dislike Israel and will stab us in the back, believe me. So they've probably been recruited because Iran said there's new players in the resistance. So probably Morocco's coming in, and Algeria may help them as a friendly Muslim majority neighbor country, or not, but probably yes. So Morocco has that pincher point that's as low as 8 miles. So if Algeria and Morocco put some even modest military resources there, they can close the access from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean. Iran still has not come forth and really taken any serious efforts against ships in the Persian Gulf, but it's on their agenda. They probably want to wait and see what the American coalition actually does with the Houthis attacks. And then they'll see if they can make modifications to missiles or other weapons, or what other ways can be used to attack them. Now, the Iranians have a unique setup. They used to have 1,500 go-fast boats, but by now it could be over 2,000. And these things go pretty quick, I would say 45 miles an hour up to maybe 65, 75 miles an hour. They're small, probably up to 40 or 50 feet, maybe some hit 60 feet. Kind of like a PT boat, except it's a hybrid, built in your garage kind of thing. They can put torpedoes in the water by steering the nose of the boat. The torpedoes are on the decks on the side, and they hit the launcher and they jump off the boat into the water and then go. And the way they're controlled is by what you pointed the boat at. So these are disposable assets. They usually have a machine gun, 50 caliber, we would assume. And they could also carry RPGs, shoulder-fired weapons, and things like that. So if you send 100 of those, or even 40 at an aircraft carrier or a destroyer, they're going to be able to take some of them out, but boats will get sunk. Warships. It's a problem. So Iran threatened there would be other waterways blockaded without specifying which waterways they are. Malaysia blocked all Israeli ships, or ships coming from Israel, going to Israel, from docking in Malaysia. But Malaysia doesn't have any pincher points to control much of anything. So all the ships have to do is keep in international waters out of the Malaysian waters, which are, I don't know what the limit is for Malaysia. I mean, America imposes 25 miles, but Malaysia's probably someplace between 3 and 15 miles, so they could avoid Malaysia. But it shows us a sign of things to come. Eventually, this is going to take oil prices up reasonably well, but when they hit the Persian Gulf, then you'll see the oil prices double and maybe triple. So Iran's waiting on that one. They want to see how successful they could be. Let's take a look at spot oil prices for today and see. They were in the $74, $75 range 1 or 2 days ago. Let's see what if they've moved or stayed the same, or it's easy to check. And we'll check gold and silver too. Actually, they've managed to drive gold prices down into the low 70s, but they're still hovering around. They keep hitting 74 and then they get driven down. So it hasn't really done much, the oil prices, yet. India's patrolling the Red Sea area by themselves, well, independent from from the other countries. I'm sure they're friendly and share intelligence and talk on the radios, but they're not taking orders from Biden or NATO or the EU. They're operating by themselves. Well, let me get a better sight. I can't. I usually use this company called Kitco, but they're saying they're experiencing difficulties, so they're probably under cyber attack. They've been saying that for a few days. Gold is nicely up to $2,052, and I'm sure America and other countries are trying their best to jack the price down. It's been for some weeks it's been hitting 2,000, going slightly over. I don't remember it breaking 2,100 yet. Maybe it did, but I don't know. And if it did, it was brief, a few hours. And it goes back under 2,000 and goes back up. So they're not being able to really keep the price down so low. When big events break out, big wars and other things, you'll see the gold push with a lot of resistance to the $2,500 mark. And then eventually it'll get through that. And when you start seeing it hit 27, 28, it's going to be very hard to drive that down again. There's going to become frenzies. And they're going to have tremendous trouble suppressing the prices of everything. If these markets weren't rigged, they wouldn't exist. The elite don't like gambling. They like everything rigged. We'll check silver, but silver's not really been moving much. It's actually been going down slightly. It gives you a graph and doesn't interpret it. Okay, let me try something else. There's so many fraudulent sites. They tell you spot silver price, and when you get there, there's nothing there. Anything to get traffic to your website, to their website. But then, people realize they're deceivers. What do you want to invest any money with them for? $24.40 on silver. So it's still, staying around where it was. Silver's not getting a big emphasis right now, and I don't think silver will until gold really starts rocking and rolling. When gold breaks 2,500, let's say it's 26, 27, Silver would probably be $40-50 an ounce. Of course, it's a poor man's investment in precious metal. That's a sound investment. Let's see how the dollar is doing. The Israeli shekel is down. It was over 4. Now it's 3.6. So Netanyahu tries hard to suppress the shekel. He's just no good on every front, guys. You got to understand that. The dollar buys 90 cents in terms of against the euro. So it's kind of weak, the dollar. Let's take a look at British pound. $1.27. That's not that drastically different. Where the euro's $1.10. We've seen it par with the euro before, or almost par, but the euro's pulling ahead. Against the Canadian, it's 75 cents. It's slightly better for the dollar's slightly better against the Canadian. And the Aussie dollar, Aussie dollar is 67 cents. So that's pretty much staying the same. So there's not any great big movements. Except the shekel got a lot weaker. Or you could say the dollar got a lot stronger. See if I can find this Swiss franc. No. Oh, there it is. $1.16. So the Swiss franc is worth $1.16. So it's risen or the dollar's dropped or combinations thereof. So that's what's going on in most of your futures. I don't really start with corn and pork bellies and orange juice pulp and all that, because those are individual markets that are going to fluctuate according to those individual markets. I'm going to take a fast break for a minute, quite fast. I'll be right back. let me go into the chat for a minute and see what's going on and do a small amount of housekeeping in the chat. Okay. See if I got questions. Increase the volume. I think I have it up high. Let me check. See if I got questions. I've got it up as high as I can get it. It'll make a little difference for the better. Increase the volume. Okay. All right. All right. Moving as quick as I can. It's not going to take long. You'll knock it off. Almost done. Okay. So why am I saying that America is awakening? Well, they are, but I should explain why I say that, right? That bell is red alerts. That means rockets are coming in either from Lebanon or Gaza or drones or something. The vast majority of the red alerts for unidentified aircraft, i.e. drones or something, in the last 6 weeks or so have been false alarms, but better safe than sorry. Biden is fighting with the Congress. He wants a bill with a budget for Ukraine aid and Israel aid approved by Congress. And the Republicans in Congress refuse to do this unless Biden closes the border. Now, a conservative effort and a conservative statement would be about 360,000 a month are coming in through the border. A conservative estimate would be there's about 4 million of these illegal aliens that have come in, and as soon as they get over the border, they file paperwork to get amnesty. And once they get processed, they get a court date right away, which could be 8 or 10 years in the future, I'm told, that they have to appear. And they could basically live in America because they're awaiting their amnesty case, so they could stay in America as legal. So they come in illegally and then they convert into illegal, and there's people in Mexico that are helping them, giving them the forms and helping them fill it out and tell them what building to go to and how to do it. Now Biden, through the ATF, which he controls, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, they regulate the guns. Several days ago, less than a week, I think, or maybe a week ago, sent notices to all the FFLs, federal firearm licenses, gun stores, gun dealers, and told them that these people that have come in and filed amnesty are exempt from the criminal records check because they can't check them. These people come in and they say they have no ID. They could say they came from Bolivia and they came from Iran or whatever. I mean, there's no effort to run them down. You could fingerprint them, and they might do that, probably, I don't know. And you have no country to send it to. You can't send fingerprints to Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Algeria, and Yemen, and probably another 10 countries or 15 countries won't respond to the criminal records check. So they don't vet these people at all. They don't know who they are. They could be serial killers, serial rapists, terrorists, and 70% of them are military-age males, where the percentages should probably be 15 or 20% for that. So they're called Trojan horses or sleeper agents, and it's common knowledge. The FBI keeps screaming about this. And people that live by the border, militias, sheriffs, police chiefs, everybody's screaming about this. It's common knowledge. Now, the longer that Biden keeps the border open, the worse and worse it gets. Now, the estimates at 360,000 could be off. It could be 4, 5, 600,000 a month. They're getting 12, 13,000 a day by their own numbers. And it could be a lot higher. And they're also recruiting from the Muslims living in America, which is probably, 10, 15 million? They could raise an army already. That'll be devastating. If you only have 4 million, it's 70% military age. Those are your Trojan horses sleepers. You got 2.8 million. If only 500,000 of them activate, we say, well, let's say they activate 2 million. And they're being spread by the federal government into lots of different cities around the United States. They can start taking action against the Americans. Now, many sites are understanding this now on social media, and they're talking about it openly. Politicians are talking about it openly. In other words, the cat's out of the bag. They know Biden is destroying America. I'm reading sites or watching and listening to sites that don't really have much. I mean, they're tokenism Christians. They don't really understand a whole lot of anything about the Bible, but they say they're Christians and they throw Bible verses out occasionally. And they're aware of the fact that Biden's turning against America. They're talking about it. Now, what you're not getting is what the militias are talking about in their own encrypted communications that they have. And they got to be aware of it. And, their position is not going to be biblical. It's going to be well, we'll have to fight them and keep them out of our communities, our cities and states, and they'll be able to do a reasonably decent job against such uprisings in their states. They'll take casualties, they'll have deaths, and so will the terrorists. They can give them a whooping. But the terrorists don't need to go there. They can avoid those areas. And these people aren't going to go to other areas because they're going to be worried about protecting their houses, their cars, their prepper supplies, and their families, and all this stuff. They won't leave. Okay? So you're going to be able to see a certain amount of places are going to be probably neutralizing a lot of these terrorists if they come at them openly like an army, like swarm a city. But if they just infiltrate into these cities, counties, and states and start assassinating people in the street, they're not going to, they'll get some of them, but a lot will get away. But you're dealing with jihadists that are ready to die. And I've covered with you guys the different approaches. They blow buses up. Guy gets on a bus, a gal gets on a bus with a big purse. It has maybe 3, 4 kilo, 5 kilo explosive in it, right? And they could sacrifice themselves and blow it up on the bus. And the buses tend to contain, or a subway car, or some sort of other public transportation method, contain the blast because they got walls. It blows the windows out and gets some of the pressure out. But a tremendous amount of people inside this public transportation car will die, and many will get wounded. Their purpose here is to create terror. What they're striving for is what Biden is striving for, a revolution in the country, which will weaken the country tremendously. Do the survivalist preppers, gun nuts, and militias, are they aware of this yet? Well, I would say 95% of them, 99% of them. Well, no, some maybe only 80 or 90% of them are not. Some are. Some are. The scriptures in Jeremiah 50:51 are, they tried to heal her, but they would not heal, and then they get out of town. They're going to have to succeed from the Union. That's the best way to explain ruler fighting ruler, because you got to be a ruler to be in the fight. Of course, you could see Texas fighting New York, but is that realistic with such great distance? Please, it's not realistic. Florida fighting Tennessee? Yeah, come on, that's not realistic. Okay, Florida fighting Georgia. Why? The border states are getting clobbered. So, your New Mexico, California is, they were out in Gaga land. Forget that place, right? They're going to stay with Biden, and they forget them. Like New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, the border states with Mexico, they're going to be pretty interested in succeeding because they want this to stop. The thing that they haven't, well, actually, some of the social media people have figured out that the cow is out of the barn. It's too late already. There's too many. There's too many. Okay? Already, today. So Biden, January 2nd, says, okay, I'm closing the border, approve my budget for Ukraine and Israel, and he just tells Border Patrol, shut it down. And it takes them, 72, 96 hours to get it shut down, maybe 5 days, and not long. And when they see it shut down, well, then they'll approve it. And if they approve the budget and then Biden lets it open up again, what does Congress do? Now there's talk, there's $300 billion of Russian money held under sanctions in various banks around the world. And the Biden administration is talking about getting that money which they believe they don't need Congress for, and giving it to Ukraine, possibly Israel, but mostly Ukraine, which will get Ukraine back on her feet in a massive way, big time. So then Ukraine has to run around buying aircraft, missiles, drones, naval vessels, or I don't know what else, right? Guns, medical, plate carrier, bullet-resistant vests, and hand grenades, and artillery, the whole gamut. Tanks, and give Russia a real bad time. Now, will that get Russia angry beyond belief? It won't get Russia a little angry, it'll get Russia huge angry. But Russia is in on the snare, and they may not move yet. They're all waiting. Okay, I'll be a second here. Gotta do something real quick. Now, what we got to bear in mind is when the Congress told them that they're not approving the budget for Ukraine and Israel assistance military, that I think his name is Lloyd Austin, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff's guy. Guess he's a general, 4-star or something. He said that if this happens, they might have to go to open war with Russia. Congress didn't budge. So bear that in mind. So by doing a move like, remember, Biden administration has rooms full of people that may or may not be S-bots. And they got high IQs and good education. They got PhDs, masters, bachelor's degrees from the best universities, and they come from military war colleges where they spent years studying wars and politics, and they come from intelligence agencies. And they could assemble 20 of these guys or 40 of these guys together to work out these schemes. And they sit there and have debates with each other, and then they come up with a recommendation by committee. But still, this was a brilliant idea. Why? I'll explain. It is the threat that Austin gave them by saying we may have to go to open war with Russia. He didn't say we're going to declare war on Russia, I don't believe. People thought that meant they were going to put 25 or 50,000 soldiers in Ukraine to drive Russia back. But what I think he was saying is we're going to take that $300 billion of Russian money and give a good part of it to Ukraine and Israel for them to defend themselves against their enemies. Ukraine's enemy is Russia. Israel's enemy is numerous. Now, this is a slap shot all over the face of Putin. It's a double, triple insult. And Putin will be the one to engage in open warfare with America and or NATO, which is what Biden wants. Now, how's that fit with Israel? Well, he'll tell Netanyahu, look, we could allocate out of this 300 billion, we could allocate, 70 billion or 50 or whatever the number is. The bulk is going to go to Ukraine. But a substantial hunk of it goes to Israel. Netanyahu's going to say, yeah, we want that money. Now, how does corruption work in any government? Well, a government gets money, taxes, or any other way, and they decide to buy things from their own companies and other companies abroad. And they try to arrange kickbacks. So they say, yeah, we're going to buy, this happened with Netanyahu. He bought 6 submarines from Germany at reduced prices due to war reparation type thing. And he used his cousin, who was a lawyer, to negotiate the sale. And his cousin got paid by the submarine company $25 million and got caught. And I believe the money went back. That's your boy Netanyahu. Okay, in action. The cousin wasn't even a lawyer for the government. Does the government of Israel have rooms full of lawyers? Of course. If they use the high-ranking lawyer that's employed by the government that makes maybe $10,000, $12,000 a month, maybe not even, or maybe even $15,000, they could have negotiated the deal. Why does he bring his cousin in, who's a citizen of another country, I believe UK or America? You see how it works? So Netanyahu will sit there and say, yeah, I get, 50 billion, 75 billion, sure. We'll go to all my buddies in Israel and we'll buy from all the defense contractors. And we'll go abroad to my other buddies and maybe we'll buy some submarines or planes or missiles or whatever, right? What do you think a submarine costs anyway? Maybe $200, $300, $400, $500 million or something like that. Maybe it only costs $100 million. He buys not nuclear, he buys diesel. Diesel is quieter. Diesel submarines today, I'm going to guess, could maybe stay submerged for as long as a week. They have new devices compared to World War II submarines where they could recycle air to some extent to make the air usable. They can desalinate the water, so they just suck in ocean water with a pump, run it through desalination machines, and the guys can take showers. And generally, they restrict the shower to a 5-minute shower per sailor. But I've studied that 5 minutes is enough time to lather up your hair, wash your hair, lather up your body, rinse it off. No problem. 5 minutes is a decent shower. So these guys could take a shower every day or every other day, whatever they tell them. Maybe they say you can do it every day. And they got unlimited drinking water, basically, because you could drink this desalinated water. And food, you got to schlep the food with you. Look, even on a nuclear submarine, you got to stick the food in freezers and storehouses, depending if it's dry food or refrigeration, So you got to load the place up with food anyway. So I think the nuclear submarines they're pretty big. They can handle about 3 months, I believe. And then they got to get food and, there's other things they're going to need. They're going to need supplies of all sorts, medical, equipment, tools, parts. The machine or the engine on the nuclear engine could go for 20 years or whatever it is, ages, but they got problems with. They haven't figured out a way to nuclearize eating for the sailors. So they can't do that. They did solve the problem with drinking water. And with air, I think they managed to recirculate the air and make it work. The other idea they can do is they can go near the surface and do what's called snorkeling, where they have one or two tubes that are probably, as much as 3 or 4 inches thick. And they might go 50 or 60 or 70 feet below the surface, even, where they're pretty well hidden, especially at night. If you're in waters like in the Caribbean, the clear blue sea, and it's sunny day outside, aircraft could spot you, even if you're down 40 feet or so. But 60, 70 feet, nah, I don't think so. And I don't know what the limit is. They may even be able to go 100 feet. They just extend that snorkel. But probably 40 to 60 feet is enough to keep them pretty well concealed in most oceans. And they got to take greater care in the very clear waters of the world. And the way you do that is you just go out there with, the sun's going down, and you stay there till the sun comes up. You snorkel, keep snorkeling, and they're not going to spot you in diminished light, and they just suck air in. They got powerful motors just sucking the air in. They might be able to play this game for a week, but you see, the thing is with Israel is they're not interested in going 4,000 miles away with submarines. Like America will go 7,000, 8,000 miles. We're not interested in that. We're interested in going maybe a few hundred miles away. So the diesel submarines do a good job. But I don't think that's ever going to really mean anything, because it takes 2-3 years to get these submarines, and planes take a long time. What could come fast is Israel could use the money to go to our own inside Israel manufacturers that make artillery, bullets, guns, missiles, missile launchers, rockets, Iron Dome, David Sling, all these kind of things, and have them work, round the clock, 6 days a week, no Shabbat probably, churning the stuff out for ourselves, because a lot of our stuff is made within Israel. And there's also going to be a certain number of manufacturers around the world that, if you express the urgency to them that you're at war, they'll give it a priority and churn the stuff out quickly too. So Israel can get bombs. Bombs don't take a year or two to produce. Neither does artillery shells or mortar shells or bullets or even rifles, or, things like this can be churned out. So Israel can load up on a lot of equipment. And who's to say Biden's going to stop it at 50 billion? I think he wanted to give Israel something like 100 billion. So $100 billion, Netanyahu will drool. My gosh, the kickbacks. I can't prove he does kickbacks, but we know what happened with that submarine deal about 3 years ago. So he could be doing it again, although he's watched pretty closely. You never know. I don't know one way or the other, but he'll go for that money quickly. And that will further help Biden, because it will turn Russia against Israel more so than now. Putin likes money. Okay? And he'll be mad as a hatter when this happens. So the United States Congress has to sit there and listen to their intelligence briefings. And it's going to come out, if you don't give Biden his money, he's going to do this. And the border's going to remain open anyway, and you're probably going to have a war with Russia. And then what does the Congress do? Well, they're already trying to impeach Biden. That is a slow-moving freight train, maybe. It might be a fast-moving freight train, depending on how bad they want it. And can they get enough votes to really have Biden thrown out of office? That's the million-dollar question. That's an extremely rare occurrence in American history, extremely rare. So they're waking up. Their reaction in response to it is predictably incorrect, and that's they're not relying on God. They're relying on themselves and their preps and their guns and survival equipment and their bug out bags and bug out locations and all of this stuff. And I've been saying on my broadcast that they use fire. They're going to throw incendiary grenades in the houses. The thing you have to understand about these Trojan horse sleeper agents is they're terrorists. They are predominantly going to try in the initial stages to create terror. And that means they could do events that don't necessarily lead anywhere meaningfully, except get the people mad and scared. And they're going to vent out against the terrorists for sure. And they're going to kill a lot of these terrorists for sure. But they're also going to go after the federal government. They'll try to succeed initially, it won't work, and then they'll go after the federal government. And it may or may not work. It's going to... Now, I don't like to say this, but I believe I'm supposed to tell you. I had a dream about this probably in 2014, I think. And what I saw was militia types, revolutionaries in America, Americans that got tired of this Biden, or I don't know who the president was. And they stormed the White House. And the Secret Service guy came and opened up the gates and said, "Hey, fellas, we stand down. We're not fighting you. Come in. We're not going to fight you. We're standing down." But he's not here. The president's not here. I don't know where he is. He left. That was the dream, essentially. And they were a little bit bewildered. The Secret Service wasn't going to fight them. Of course, they saw what an idiot Biden was, and they just stood down. Now, I don't know who the president was. I thought it would be Obama, but that's not the case unless they reinstate that guy. And that's probably nothing you're going to see. All this pressure on Biden and the threat of an impeachment and problems with his son could cause Biden to go the way of Netanyahu, who had a heart problem and they had to surgically implant the pacemaker. That might happen to him, something like that. I don't know if it'll be a pacemaker. It could be heart, it could be nerves, it could be brain function, it could be stomach, it could be who knows what. And they might replace him, and the natural order of that would be Kamala Harris, and then the Speaker of the House is the Vice President. And then another replacement could happen. Who knows? I don't know what will happen. With the details, I don't know. But that was the dream, take it or leave it. I believe it was one of those special dreams, and it never said Obama, and I never saw the president, so I don't know who it is. It may not be Biden either. He could be gone by then. He's old. He could die of natural causes. He could get real sick and they got to remove him. We don't know. So the people waking up is going to further accelerate this fighting ruler in America. It has to happen, and it's happening. Because there's not going to be fighting ruler unless they're awake. And they're awake. Some more than others. Are they awake to understanding how to fit it into the Bible prophecy? No. Can that change for the better? You bet. Will it? Likely it will. To some extent, not a lot. Can you have a real ruler fighting ruler where you have a civil war where they side up together? Yeah, but I don't quite see that in prophecy, and it doesn't indicate that. So it indicates that there's going to be sporadic, here and there, ruler fighting ruler, different entities. So to be a ruler on the lowest level, you have to be a mayor. The next level up would be something to do with a board of supervisors of a county, which is sort of like a mayor, but it's a committee. Usually a county doesn't have one head, usually has a board. And then you have state governors, and those are the rulers, So the first step would be, in my opinion, not to fight with the Fed, to declare your independence from the United States of America, which Biden would say is ludicrous and not acceptable, and it's not valid, and if you do it, we'll use military force like Abraham Lincoln. And Biden would, because that's going to bring America down, and that's his goal, and that's where you're going to have it. Now, if there really are inside America, 8 to 12 to 12 million of these sympathizers that have been in America as Muslims that'll hook up with them. Muslim training camps have been around in America, spoken about for a good 20-something years. And these military age sleeper agents coming in, they could raise a substantial army. And remember, it says in Jeremiah 50:51, I will kindle fires around your cities, and they're going to burn up. Now, these internal sleeper agents can do that easily. There's a million ways. Just throw matches and kerosene in the forests around the cities. They can use missiles and rockets fired from within the city to land in the city, or outside the city to land in the city. They make them. They know how to do them. If they could build them in tunnels, believe me, they can build them inside America, hands down. Then they might have tens of thousands of these rockets and launchers already assembled, ready to go. There's so many ways to start fires. It's easy. Molotovs, a million ways, but not just go and burn the forests. They're going to burn around the cities. They're going to burn up the cities. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be done by the invading armies. It can be done by these sleeper agents. Give me a second. It can be done by the sleeper agents. And that means it could start today. Think about it. It could start today. Now, half or more of my subscribers, more than half, are from Canada and America. And the rest are mostly from Europe, and I don't think I have more than 5 or 10 in Israel. God's not yet spreading the true gospel in Israel. He's not, the time's not right for that. I understand why it's not right. So, we'll go into Jeremiah 50:51 and break this down, and we'll illuminate what it's going to look like. But be advised that it could start today. There's enough of them there to do it. Okay? They used incendiary balloons in Israel from Gaza. I've done this with you before. It's 10 or 15 helium balloons, the kind you get at a circus or a carnival or a fair. They tie them together with a little bucket or a container, and in there they put, maybe a liter or 2 liters of some combustible fluid with turpentine, kerosene, gasoline, and other things they use. They have special glues they used to use to burn cars. They squirt the glue all over the seats of the car and then drop a match on it. And, there's probably 25 different things that could be used. Household cleaning fluids, all this stuff that you can buy in the supermarkets and the stores. It's easy, steezy. Gasoline. They just light a fuse, or they put a timer fuse in, depending on the sophistication. They watch the windage, they release the balloons starts gaining altitude, flying in the direction of the wind. Okay? They're poorly controlled. They try to estimate the travel time with the length of the fuse. Let's say you light a fuse like a firecracker fuse, and it's more sophisticated, so it takes 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, whatever they want to set it for, and it's floating and moving, and then once the fuse hits the fuel, it bursts into flames, burns the balloons, the thing comes down flaming, and you got a fire. If it lands on a car, you're probably going to have a burnt up car. Cars start burning, the gas tank goes, the car behind it goes, the next car. The buildings next to the cars burning can go, maybe not go. Lands on the roof of a building. In America, a lot of your roofs are tar. They're going to go. Okay? Lands in a park. What's going to happen? A lot of nothing. Lands in a parking lot. What happens? Some cars can go. And then they catch other cars and other cars. Where else can land? In the beach? Nothing. They're not going to launch towards beaches and places like that. They can launch from inside the city to the city. They go up on the roof of a building at night or their house or whatever. They launch. They launch 20 or 30 of them. People aren't going to know what's going on at night. They're quiet. They make no noise. And they just start burning up the city after they launch their 15 or 20 incendiary balloons. They launched thousands of these in Israel. Okay, you think they're not going to do it in America? It's the same jackasses. Then what? They get in their car and drive away. And they're not going to burn the city where they live in, or maybe they will, but then they'll just go somewhere else. How hard is it to accumulate 800,000 balloons inside America? Not hard at all, especially when you've been working on it for many months. And get hundreds or thousands, get 4,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 tanks of helium. Not hard. They got so much money, they buy helium companies, gas companies. It's not hard. Helium's not a really controlled gas. And they just go to the supermarkets and the hardware stores and, buy the Walmarts and buy combustible materials. It's easy. They know what they're doing. Okay? And these things burned up thousands and thousands of acres of our farmland down south. Israel houses are almost exclusive. It's rare you'll ever see a wood house in Israel. It's rare you see a sheetrock house. It's rare you see tar on a roof. Very rare. What you see is concrete roofs with tile. Tile's not going to burn. You can drop these things on the roof all day long. It's concrete under the tile with tile. What are you going to burn? I mean, you might singe it, or, you get out there with a garden hose, hold your thumb on it, and spritz the water up on the roof, and it's over, right? There's nothing going on there. It's not going to burn. I don't think it'll burn the house. I don't remember houses getting burned. Cars caught fire. Some buildings had a little fire, but they put it out. The house is a concrete block. It's not easy to do it because these balloons are external to the house. When they came around to the houses and they tried to go in the house and they couldn't get in, the people might have been shooting at them with the few people that had handguns. They might have had the house all locked up with bars on the windows, and they had the steel doors that everybody has in Israel. So they couldn't get in. Right? So they threw these incendiary grenades through the window. They broke the window, threw it in between the bars. They go off and they started fire in the house. So what's going to catch fire in the house? Any carpets, furniture, rugs, stuff on the wall. They burned the houses down. The houses burned down. When you start the fire from inside, they burn down. So if they're going to come around and attack the houses to create terror, which they may or may not do, they are going to be very successful, but they'll use Molotovs. They'll just throw them at the house, and Molotov is a fuel like kerosene, turpentine, gasoline, any one of a million cleaning fluids that are highly flammable, and they put stuff in there to make them sticky. So they throw it up against the wall, and the whole wall will be burning. And they're not going to throw one; they'll throw 4 or 5 or 6 at the house. Some might get in the windows. They'll aim for the windows, throw them up on the roof with the tar, and the house is going to burn. How many survivalists are going around buying large fire extinguishers at the rate of like 5 or 10 for the house to put these fires out? Probably 1/100th of 1%. Or 1/10,000th of 1% of the survivalists do this. In other words, they're not prepared. They might have a little extinguisher in case mom's cooking and something catches fire on the stove or that kind of thing, Or somebody falls asleep smoking their marijuana in bed and the mattress lights up and you grab your fire extinguisher, go, shh, 15 seconds, you got it out. Then you got to drag the mattress out of the house and, the damage is minimal. And generally, the mattresses don't catch fire that easy. They got retardants, and Okay, so anyway, houses burn. Okay, when you start the fire from inside, they're gonna burn easy. Now there are people you can do things to stop this, but you got to understand if they come and hit cities, not such large cities, to take a city over and get hostages. I don't know why they would. I don't know what they're going to do with the hostages. But let's say they try taking cities over. When they come in, their real primary purpose is probably going to be to burn the city. And they're going to have AK-47s that they're going to buy in the gun stores, because they can now, to protect them from the people in the cities. They'll have neighborhood watches in these smaller communities where a neighborhood will assemble, maybe as many as, a neighborhood of 10,000 might assemble, 80 or 90 guys that know what they're doing, that are armed, and they work in shifts, patrol the neighborhood, have checkpoints and walkie-talkies and communications, and if they see them coming, they're going to open up on the terrorists. And will they kill them? They'll kill a lot of them, but not enough of them. They don't grasp the magnitude of it. They will kill them. They will outshoot them, or, well, some of the terrorist special forces, believe it or not, can actually shoot pretty good, but so can these gun guys. And they'll kill them. They'll snipe them. They'll get them with pistols. They'll get them with rifles. They'll get them with shotguns. They will kill a lot of them. So what? They throw away disposable pawns. Nobody cares. But they will kill them. Don't think they won't. I guarantee you'll kill tons of them. Their bodies will stack in the streets, but it's not going to be enough. What you need, you don't have. You need armored personnel carriers. You need tanks. You need serious machine guns, okay? With tens of thousands of rounds of ammo to mow them down. You need mortars. You need artillery. You need aircraft to drop explosives on them. You don't have any of this stuff. And you don't even have bunkers. And you don't have walls around your community. You ain't going to make it. Will they overrun and kill you? They'll probably get you to break ranks and withdraw, retreat, break up, because they're just going to keep coming. I'm telling you, they keep coming. They die and they keep coming. I'm telling you. All right? You got to understand this. There's going to be, they're not going to come in, you know, with 100 or 200. If they're going to hit a community with 25, 50,000 people, probably going to come with, you know, at least 3,000 to 5,000 of them. So you might kill 600 or 900 of them. So what? And they'll be killing the people that live there that are defending their community. They'll be getting killed at the same time. They don't have foxholes. They don't have armor. I mean, tanks and stuff. They don't have walls. What do they got? They're going to be running around in their cars and walking and hiding behind buildings and laying prone. They're going to get killed. They also can shoot Katyushas, which go 8 to 12 miles, by the way, from outside a community into a community, and you better believe Katyushas start fires in houses, cars, buildings, commercial buildings, things like that. That also works. But they're going to be using fires. And it may be the sleeper agents, not the invading army. And all these survivalists and preppers and militias are not set up for this at all. When they start surrounding the community and they start going through the streets, the idea is to get you to come out of the house. If you don't come out of the house, they're going to load bullets into the house wholesale. Hundreds of rounds will go into the house. It's probably going to take out a lot of people. The American houses are not protected against bullets. If you start shooting concrete block houses with AK-47s, they're not going to penetrate. They got to go through 2 walls of concrete. They'll deflect, they'll bounce off. They won't go through. Okay? They'll go through the windows. They'll maybe not go through the metal doors, depending on which metal door you have. And they'll deflect. They won't be on a true trajectory. But if you come out, then you're a prisoner, or they'll kill you anyway. They'll tell you come out, you'll be safe. You come out and they'll just mow you down. You don't know what they're going to do. If you're shooting at them from within the house, you need to have enough shooters to cover the whole house. So all the sides of the house where there's windows and doors need to come in. Now, the biggest vulnerability in the American house is those sliding patio doors they got. They got them in townhouse apartments. They got them in private homes. Practically every house has one. You're not going to be able to protect against that. They'll just shoot the door, the glass door, and then throw Molotovs in the house and you're cooked. If you got a bunch of fire extinguishers, you could keep putting the fires out, and they're probably going to move away, go to other houses once they see the fire start. they're not going to really wait around to see if you're going to burn to death or run out. They'll wait a little while. And you'll probably be able to get away, maybe. People got away on October 7th. They hid in different places. Some hid for days. So yeah, you might be able to get away and hide. It depends where you live. Okay? If so yeah, I mean, when they come around your house and you start shooting at them in the street before they get to your house, are you going to hit some of them? You bet you're going to hit some of them. Then they'll get out of, they'll take cover, get out of range, whatever, and they'll shoot back at the house extensively. And then if you don't come out, they'll burn it. And then if you don't come out, they'll probably leave. So you need to have people. So if you're the type of guy that, let's say there's, a man and a wife and they both accomplished shooters and they got, let's say, 3 young kids or other relatives or friends living with them that could also shoot, you got 5 shooters, can you defend the house reasonably well? Sure you can. If you know what you're doing and you got a lot of ammo and long guns, yeah, you can. Easy. But how are you going to defend against the fire? You have to have a special house for that. People have brick houses, but they're going to throw the stuff through the windows. People have bars on their windows. Is that going to help? You bet it'll help a lot. What's the roof made out of? Is it tar or concrete? They're not going to get everybody. A lot of people got away on October 7th. They don't get everybody. They get a ton of people, but they don't get everybody, and they can get killed. In America, they're going to get killed. That's why they may not go house to house. They may just do the fires. And they're just going to have the guns, because Biden opened the door for them to buy guns, just to protect themselves while they're doing Katyushas and starting fires in different ways. That might be it. They may not buy. What are they going to do if they hit, let's say, they hit, ABCville in some state, and it has 37,200 people, and they come in 4,000 or 5,000, they take the town. Probably 2,500 could take the town. What are they going to do with it? Okay, they put all the people in the schools and the public buildings, and they keep them hostage, and then what? Do a prisoner swap. Let's say some of their forces got caught, hundreds or thousands of them. Try to do a prisoner swap with America, and we'll give you the community back, let our guys go. That's not going to work. America's going to be a bloody warfare, and they're not going to do it. I don't know what they would do with the hostages here. See, in Gaza, they took them back to Gaza, which is like its own country. So I don't know. They may attack cities just to create terror. And that would cause America to deploy military inside America more and more, which they're not looking for. They want America's military outside. So one of their modus operandi is to take hostages, but in the case of America, I don't know what the gain would be. I'm at a loss. I don't know what they're going to do with these hostages. It's going to tie them up. Okay? Will they do mass assassinations and rapes and looting and pillaging and stealing cars and guns and jewelry and money and drugs out of the medicine cabinet? Yes, 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 all of that. How long does it take to rape? 10 minutes. 5 minutes. Gang rape takes 30 minutes. That's it. They have a habit of raping them till they're dead, and then some. We examined the skeletons of the women that we found dead inside Israel, and their pelvises were broken. They were raped so much that pelvises broke. Now, having worked in law enforcement as a young guy and worked on rapes, I could tell you that I never encountered anything where a woman's pelvis was broken because she was repeatedly gang raped. Never heard of it. I never heard of it. The first I ever heard that happening. So if they just go in and hit communities, they could hit large cities. They could hit New York, Chicago, LA, Miami, Atlanta, Kansas City, Tulsa, all this stuff. Dallas, Fort Worth, and I could keep going, right? And after they finish starting to burn the city, they just get out of there and get in their cars and go to another city. Well, we got fire departments. You got great fire departments in the greatest scheme of the world. Your fire departments are excellent. So what? How many fires can they handle? They can't handle it. What are some of the other things they would try to burn with Molotovs and incendiary grenades? Any food supply, gas stations for fuel, hospitals, medical centers, and stuff like that. What happens to the people that are burned out of their houses? Well, they're in the streets, so their friends and relatives come help them. What would be prudent? Good waterproof tents with flies, some ability to stay warm outside, lots of good clothing, lots of good sleeping bags, depending where you live. If you're in Florida and you're going to be combating, 55-degree weather, it's not very difficult. Okay, I sit outside here at 55 degrees, 58 degrees for hours at a time working on the internet, and I wear shoes without socks, not warm shoes. I don't usually wear socks. I have Wrangler jeans that have a fleece lining. It's red. Wonderful. Cheap, too. Wrangler. Fleece lining, it's red. It keep me warm for hours out there, and I'm not moving around. And then I wear a t-shirt and some kind of sweatshirt, and I use Carhartt sweatshirts on the outside. They're fantastic. I can't tell you how great they are. The Rain Defender line, heavyweight. I was out in the rain yesterday with it, and it was loaded up with rain on it, and the rain just kind of goes off. It doesn't penetrate. It's great. And sometimes when it's real cold, I'll put one Carhartt on I have that's medium and another one that's the heavyweight Rain Defender over it. And I'll wear some kind of hat, and then I got to put gloves on because my hands get cold. Not that the temperature's that cold, but the wind starts blowing and that chills your hands. So I took some unlined leather gloves. I cut the tip of the thumb and the index finger off each of them. And I wear that. Does that work well? No. I got to get another pair of gloves. It doesn't keep you that warm. It breaks the wind and stuff, but the hands still get numb after an hour and a half outside or something like that, right? And because of that, my skin gets chafed, you call it, or chapped. So I have different skin lotions from years ago I experimented with, and they all work reasonably well. The one that works the worst is the coconut oil. That's the pits. It don't do next to nothing. The one that heals your skin up the most is Tramil, which is a homeopathic skin cream, and I don't like putting that homeopathic on for nothing. So I got some others that are pretty good. I understand that if you use, I know someone that works for Chanel, and Chanel is, makeup, perfume, and all that stuff, right? And they make products that are pretty good, but they cost you a fortune. You could drop $100 on it. I'm never going to do that. This person told me if you take the Vaseline products, which are dirt cheap, and you put them on your hands, then wear white cotton gloves over it. It works super duper. But I don't want to have greasy petroleum jelly on my hands. I have some others that work. But that's the function of sitting outside. If I don't get outside and I don't get my fresh air and I don't do my breathing exercises in the fresh air, I'm not a happy camper. So I go sit outside, and it's cold, but I learned how to beat it, So anyway, if you're up in the northeast on near Canada or something like that, and it's going to go down to 10, 15 degrees, you got a lot of problems with the cold. If you got to live out in the cold, it's real serious. You got to get a minus 20 degree bag, and you got bad problems. Okay, bad problems. Now the cars, what they'll use is they'll use the car to start the house on fire. They Molotov the car in the driveway, and guess what? It's got an excellent chance of lighting your house up. You have cars in the garage, Molotov the garage, and the car's gone. The car goes up and the house goes up. We saw them do this 77 days ago in Israel. The same tactics are going to be applied. It's the same people, trained by the same people. This is what you're going to see. I'm telling you this to them over and over and over and over. And most of these survivalists, you can't listen to them. It's all about the guns. The guns are going to help, but they're not going to stop it. They may not even bother going door to door and house to house. Why? They'll just burn you out. They won't take... If they go door to door, they're probably going to get 50, 60% casualties. The survivalists, the preppers, and militias, they're going to get a similar level of casualties. Basically, they're going to knock each other's lights out. It's like getting into a fight with somebody. And I didn't learn this until after I was in martial arts for many, many years. They would, decades later, they teach you, block this, do this, And, they train the people to stand there. Okay, he throws a punch or a kick at you, you block it, and then you hit him with one back. You just stand there all day, and you got a 50% chance of losing. So finally, I learned what you got to do is you got to damage the other person, and you don't strike at them unless you're going to take something away from them. Okay? So what does that mean? They throw a punch at you. You can hit them with the elbow. They'll hit your elbow. They'll break their knuckle. You did something. You kick them in the kneecap, and they can't walk right. You got to know how to do it. It's called a stop hit. This requires training. You hit them on the instep. I think it's 14, 20 pounds of pressure that's going to break. Hitting them in the groin, I don't know. Yeah, it does some good. If you could deliver a really good, strong kick in the pelvis, they'll collapse and break the pelvis. If you could break a pelvis on a person from raping them, a good stop hit kick instead of at the knee and the pelvis is going to break the pelvis, then you got them. It's over. They're on the ground. They can't locomote. They can't move. They're there, The eyes, the trachea, the clavicle bone, 14 pounds of pressure. That's like, boom, whoops, throwing my glasses off. You just basically, you come down with this, it's called tetsui in Japanese, you boom, and you give it a good shot and it breaks. Then the whole shoulder structure goes down, and if you get lucky, the clavicle penetrates the lungs, and then it's lights out. It might take 30, 60, 90 seconds, but it's lights out. Clap them on the ears, and they're going to go, they're going to be like they had 12 shots of tequila for 30, 60 seconds. Come down on the nose and break the nose. Or to the side and hit the nose. You learn how to strike with open hands. Here, you don't use your fist. You break your hand. You're screwed. You go to punch some of these characters, they'll come down and have you hit them in the forehead. Believe it or not a lot's going to happen to you if you get punched in your forehead with that big bone. Now, if you hit a guy that's 6'5", can bench press 350, and he punches you and you stick your forehead out, the chances of you getting a concussion are quite substantial, but it would be a very minor concussion, I think. And the chances of him breaking his hand, if he hit you hard enough to give you a concussion, would be near perfect. So, for Hollywood, you punch people like that, but, So, when the training is all wrong, all these dojos, karate schools, and all this stuff, they teach people systems. That's how the guy, and they're normally a Satan bot, a successful school is going to be run by a Satan bot. They get people to come back there for years and years teaching them useless stuff that has no applicability in real self-defense. And after they tell you learn that for years and years, they teach you real self-defense, but they never do. I never once saw any of these morons teach people how to throw strikes with the hands and the feet without telegraphing it. Any boxer knows that. Golden Glove kids know that, but they never teach it. Either they don't know it, which is really highly likely, or they don't want to teach it. You go to boxing gyms, they're going to teach you what they know. They're not holding back. Okay? Is it perfect self-defense? No, but it's a heck of a lot better than any martial arts system, including Krav Maga, that I ever came across. Krav Maga is extremely overrated. It's not any good. Your body is only going to learn how to reflexively use perhaps as much as 12 or 14 moves, where you don't have to think about it. In all of these systems, they teach hundreds of moves. Your body can't assimilate it. In a real-world fight, you're not going to say, okay, he's coming at me with a left front kick. I'm going to come around and scoop, pull his leg up, give him a roundhouse kick with my left in the groin. He's going to come down, then I'm going to step in and elbow him in the chin. You can't do that. It happens too fast. Boxers, what do they got? What do they... hold on a minute. It's my wife. Yeah. Okay, I understand. I guess we'll have to do that.
You won't have to, but I will. There is a chance that they can subpoena you, just an FYI, and might try to make you appear. But anyway, I'm going to run a couple errands and then I'll be home. Let my dogs out of the kennel, please.
Let them out, or just let them walk around the house?
Let them out. Let them out so they're not in their cages.
Okay.
You put them outside. I mean, let them in the house.
I'll do that. Okay, bye. My wife got out of the court. You got to listen to this. We got a Muslim judge in the court. Okay? That's life in Israel under the curse Netanyahu. And he wouldn't let her testify because she didn't have a certified translator. So because she didn't have enough time to get one, they postponed it. Okay? I gotta let the dogs out. Give me a second. My wife asked me to let them out. They're in the kennels, the big ones. I'll be right back. So there's so much garbage going around with people trying to train with fighting. You know, you see these martial arts teachers, and they all claim they're so deadly, yet none of them go to the MMA and win millions of dollars. These old guys, they talk about the chi, the power, the energy they have, you know. It's demonic stuff is all it is, and if it was real, they would go in the MMA and be multimillionaires instead of hanging around and teaching in a karate school 3 classes a day for 5 or 6 days a week. You know, silly. Why believe it? It's nonsense. With the gun training, it's the same thing with these. Everything with these people is the guns. They don't get the concept of the fire. They don't understand. They don't know that these idiot terrorists can build Katyusha rocket. Well, look, they built them on trucks in Gaza. They have to smuggle all their supplies into Gaza from tunnels in Egypt. In America, you don't have to do any of that. None of that. And they don't, if they're going to smuggle it in, they're just going to walk across the border with a backpack full of it or a suitcase. It's a joke. They took rocket launchers and put them in trucks, like 24, 26-foot trucks like you rent from U-Haul. They cut off the roof. They put a tarp over the roof. Nobody pays attention to that. They put a sign, you know, Acme Bread and Eggs, or, Henry's Moving Service, or, Top Flight Restaurant Delivery, or anything, right? Anything. And they put the rocket launchers in there. Some of them got tubes, 12, 16 tubes. They rivet them into the metal floor of the box on the truck. They open up the tarp. The truck's got generators. They got electricity. They use the electricity to remote detonate the missiles. That's in a metal box. So they go out of the truck and probably run a 20-foot extension cord or something like that to ignite the missiles. They leave the engine run on the truck, but they probably step a few feet away in case the flames get out of control or a missile blows up and the truck catches fire. Why sit in the cab of the truck if you're 15, 20 feet away? The chances of anything happening to you are pretty nil, because you'll have a little warning and you run away, and the metal body of the box will catch the shrapnel, and so they shrapnel could come out of the roof, but the odds of it coming up out of the roof, how high is it going to go? 20 feet. So if it comes down and hits you in the head, what's going to happen? Not much of anything. It's a low risk, very low. They fire the rockets off. And you think they're not going to do that in America? And what happens after they fire the rockets off? They get in the truck pronto danto, they put the tarp back on the truck, and they drive away. And some neighborhood takes 8 or 12 or 16 rockets, and there's all kinds of fires and damage. And the people are petrified, terrified. I've lived in Israel for many years. I know what it's like. We all have bomb shelters. Nobody in America got bomb shelters. I got 2 on my property. They don't have bomb shelters. What are you going to do? Hide under their car? If it hits the car goes. Go in your garage? Come on, what good is the garage? The training is no good. These people in America are trained, but they're not trained well. They don't understand it. You know, like the gun training is like the martial arts training. It's good for one thing only, but it's not that good. How hard is it to burn a police station? You get 15 of them, they come by, start putting rounds in the police station. Oh, they return fire. Then comes the Molotovs. That's it. You think they're not going to have shoulder-fired rockets, RPGs, that are smuggled into America? They make them themselves. They can build them in Gaza. They'll build them in America. You got a 4 or 5 pound explosive in the head of that thing. It's enough, it'll destroy most of a room of a house or a car. Then they go to a police station, 2 or 3 Molotovs. The cops are all going to have to run out of the station, and then they do what they want. There's no police in the community. It's just, it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. Anyway, let's go through the fires and what's going to happen in Jeremiah. Let me get take a look at the live stream real quick and make sure I'm not getting questions that need answering. And the live stream real quick. All right, we got. Let me shut the sound. We don't need that. That Sunak guy is phony baloney. That's a false believer. I'm going to take this down. Don't campaign for other false believer stuff on my page. I'm not going to put up with it, okay? Okay. Well, let's get into it. Jeremiah 50, verse 32. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, plural. It's not just Washington, D.C., like Revelation 17 and 18. Cities, plural. And it shall devour, which should be burned up, I believe, all around about him. Okay? Now let's go into a little context on this. Jeremiah 50:28. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Jehovah our God, Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. Call together the archers against Babel, you that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Now that means they're going to surround, lay siege to the daughter of Babylon. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done. Do unto her, for she hath been proud against Jehovah, against the Holy One of Israel. Okay? Now it says, let none of them escape. We also read, those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind. So if you were there at the time they surround the United States, you're not going to escape. So what is those of you that survived the sword, what is it talking about? It's talking about the ruler fighting ruler that could start this afternoon. That's what it's talking about. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be bloody. And it's not the ruler fighting Hamas and Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda and ISIS. It's fighting the other rulers, which I would assume is not Texas fighting Missouri and California fighting Virginia. It's going to be the various states fighting the Fed. Also, counties are going to try to succeed. How would that work? They say, well, we're Tuscaloosa County. We no longer are in Alabama. We dropped out of the state, and we're not in the United States for our own nation. And, they're going to say, no, you're not. And they're going to say, yes, we are. And if you send federal agents in here, we'll kill them, and that kind of thing. That's what militias do. Militias and all this stuff isn't going to work, and then unless they set up something called enforcement. And the way that would work is the militia members declare themselves independent of the state and or the federal government, and they get badges and put signs on their cars that they're rangers or marshals or whatever. And if any federal agents come in, they'll arrest them and, throw them out of the state, take their guns and ID away, or whatever they're going to do. They're not going to have prisons usually. So, and, the Fed is going to be so much of this is going to be overwhelming for them. But the fighting is going to be ugly be ready. This is going to be the part of the snare that softens up and weakens America from inside for the invasion. They're really going to put their emphasis on getting Israel after they finish off America, because America is feeding Israel with money and weapons, and they're going to get rid of America, and then they figure Israel's a sitting duck. They'll just come at her with 4 or 5 million people, and that's it, in their army, and then that's not going to work, because they're going to meet the 2 witnesses and get burned up. That's Zechariah 12. That's what that story's about. She hath been proud against the Lord, against the Holy One. Okay. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Jehovah. That means everybody in the military is going to get cut off. The word for cut off is 1826, damam. It could mean be silent, be still. It could mean die. Let's see how Strong's treats it. To be dumb, stop, perish, cease, cut down. Let's look at it again more carefully. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets. That sounds like dead. And all her men of war shall be cut off in that day. Yeah, they're going to be dead, saith Jehovah. I would say that means cut off, goodbye. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith Adonai Jehovah of armies, for thy day is coming, the time that I will visit thee. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all around about him. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Think year of redemption. Jehovah of armies. It doesn't really mean hosts. It means armies. Is his name. The old word host means armies, but it's better, I think, to say armies. Is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So, when do we get rest to the land? When he disquiets the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, that's the inhabitants of Babylon, America, saith Jehovah, and upon the inhabitants of Babel, and upon their princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, there you go, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. What does dismayed mean? Shattered. Let's see how Strong's treats the word. Prostrate, break down by violence, confusion, and fear. We got that, okay. They shall be dismayed. Their spirit will be broken. They'll be all confused and fearful. A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her. That's the melting pot, America. Mingled people, melting pot. And they shall become as women. A sword is upon her. They're going to be fearful. Her treasures, a sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. The pillaging, the looting. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up, for it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert, skip through this. Behold, I'm in Jeremiah 50:41. Behold, a people shall come from the north. That's north of America, which would what mean Canada. And a great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Their voice sounds like the October 7th invaders. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array, like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. The king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble, anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of the Jordan unto the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her. That's suddenly run away from Israel, is what he's talking about here. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will anoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Well, it's probably speaking of the anointed prince from the line of David and one or two of the two witnesses. It doesn't exactly sound like Yeshua because he's still up in heaven at this time. Therefore, hear you the counsel of Jehovah that he hath taken against Babel, and his purpose that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babel, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. This is a big event. Now we'll go to 51. It goes on, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will raise up against Babel and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. Then I will send unto Babel fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. That means they surround America. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigadine, and spare you not her young men, destroy you utterly all her hosts. The whole military in America gets killed. So if you got people in the military you care about, you may want to tell them to get out of the military. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. This is going to be really, really, really crazy ugly. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, her lawlessness. For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. This would be the day of vengeance. That occurs in the year of recompenses, obviously. And also year of redemption, we read this associated with that, but perhaps not in it. He will render unto her a recompense, year of recompenses. So you're told, I believe, 8 or 9 times in Jeremiah 50:51 to get out of Dodge when it starts, or before, I guess. So there are going to be a lot of people that just won't leave. They like the place, and that's like Lot's wife that looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. Chief, be good. Yaffa, be good. Don't do anything sneaky. You be good. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. Golden cup means that he let her develop or create tremendous wealth to corrupt the other countries. Drunken the nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. They are mad. They're crazy. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Suddenly is the key word. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. They will try to heal her, probably the survivalists, the militias, the people like that, the gun people, the preppers. We would have healed Babel, but she is not healed. She won't heal. She won't stop her stupidity because they're all S-bots running the place. But she is not healed. Forsake her. That means turn your back on America. And let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. Jehovah hath brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah Elohim. So let us declare. So they leave and they go to Zion. But they're coming at the same time as the second Exodus. It's the harvest coming from all around the world. Because when you read Ezekiel 20, they stop in the wilderness for a brief period of time. I'm thinking maybe like 40 days, not 40 years, or maybe something like that. I don't know exact number of days, but it's not 40 years or anything. And then they come into Israel. So they could all be loading up and staging in the wilderness, and it could actually start before Zechariah 12. It could. It may not. It's probably at about the same time. Or slightly after. That's what I think. But it's a possibility for before, but it probably happens immediately after Zechariah 12. Our righteous, come, let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah Elohim. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babel, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Jehovah, the vengeance of his temple. Sounds like day of vengeance. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babel, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes, for the Lord hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babel. It's against all the inhabitants' ambushes. Let's check that word, 693, lie in wait. Let's see how Storm treats it. Lurk, lie in ambush. It means ambushes. Is that the armies coming in invading? They're not ambushing. They got to come in through the Canadian border or else from the water. That's not ambushing. Who's ambushing? The sleeper agents in America. Who are they ambushing? Anybody and everybody, I don't know. Read it again. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babel, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes. For the Lord hath both divided. Oh, they might be ambushing the invaders. Yeah. They might be ambushing the invaders. It could be. The drift is probably... And it sounds like they're ambushing the Americans. O thou that dwellest, it sounds like they're ambushing the Americans. It's probably the sleeper agents. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, that's America. What does it dwell on? 8,000 rivers, about the same amount of lakes. The Great Lakes, which are almost like oceans. And then you got the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Gulf of Mexico. The other candidates that they falsely teach for this is Mecca and Medina in Saudi Arabia. Those are deserts. Come on, throw that out. It makes no sense. Mingled people? They're only Muslims there. What mingled people? Then they say Rome. Rome's not sitting on many waters. In Vatican City, there's maybe 200 to 300 people living there. They're not mingled. They're all Catholic deity. Many waters. They don't got any many waters there. They got public toilets and water fountains and holy water. Come on, get real. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Jehovah of armies hath sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. Fill thee with men sounds like the sleeper agents to me, not invaders. He hath made the earth by his power, he hath established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heaven by his understanding. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind of his treasures. Every man is brutish by his knowledge, even founder is every founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the work of errors. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. The portion of Jacob, that's Israel, is nothing like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Jehovah of armies is his name. Thou art my battle axe. Israel's going to be fighting and winning. And weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the goyim, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider with Israel. And with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. With thee also, so does that mean Israel attacks the daughter of Babylon? Not necessarily, because they could be attacking other places. Break in pieces the nations. Nah, it doesn't sound like that, no. And with thee will I destroy kingdoms. It's plural, nations, kingdoms. And with thee will I break in pieces man and woman, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young men and the maid. Not specific to America, no. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers, and I will render unto Babylon, to all the inhabitants of Chaldea, all their evil that they have done in Zion, all the evil that they have done in Israel. You got it? They're going to do, Biden's going to do evil. He already has the October 7th thing. They have done in Zion in your sight, saith Jehovah. It's big, and Biden's not finished with us yet. But it just says here evil. Let's keep reading. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith Jehovah, which destroyeth all the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundations, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith the Lord. Set you up a standard in the land. That's like a sign or a flag. Could be a flag. Blow the trumpet among the goyim, prepare the goyim against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Arat, Mini, and Ashkenaz. These are former USSR states that have mutual defense treaties with Russia. Appoint a captain against her. Cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillar. Prepare against her the nations. With the kings of the earth, of the Medes, and the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof. You could just look up old Median Empire if you want to see what the Medes is. Median Empire. And all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble and sorrows for and sorrow for every purpose of Jehovah shall be performed against Babel, to make the land of Babel a desolation without any inhabitant. Everybody there is going to be wiped out. Then the armies loot and pillage it and leave. Then they'll come after Israel and they'll have all that wealth with them, and then we capture it from them. The wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. So many of the nations that surround Israel that are occupying greater Israel will be in the attack on America. And what would those nations be? West of the Red Sea, Egypt, just east of the Nile, Sudan, South Sudan, east of the Nile, Kenya and Uganda, east of the Nile, and Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, Djibouti. Then we have Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey to the west of the Euphrates River, all of Lebanon, all of Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and UAE. It's about 100 times bigger than what we have now. The mighty men of Babel have forborne to fight. They give up. They're not fighting. They have remained in their holds. Their might hath failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. The houses are burned. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babel that his city is taken. That's Washington, D.C., his city, at one end. And that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. For thus saith Jehovah of armies, Elohim Yisrael. The daughter of Babylon is likely a threshing floor. It is time to thresh. It is time to thresh her Now that means you're separating the tares from the wheat, as to the tares in the wheat in Matthew 13. And the tares get tied in bundles and put in the pit, dead, waiting to go to judgment and the lake of fire. And the wheat gets gathered into the barn. The barn is Israel, or the sheep gate is the barn, so to speak, allegorically. And who is the door to the sheep gate? Yeshua. You have to come in through him. Yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. That's the Matthew 13 harvest, which is all over the world, not just America. But America will happen at the same time. This is the second Exodus. The true believers will come to Israel, all the 10 tribes, all the Judah and Levi, they'll all come. They'll go in the wilderness, the bad ones, the espots, the liars, adulterers, they'll get cut off and die in the wilderness, and the rest will come to Israel. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, hath devoured me, he hath crushed me, he hath made me an empty vessel, he hath swallowed me up like a dragon, he hath filled his belly with my delicates, he hath cast me out. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon. Now this is a throwback to the Babylonian attack, but it's the same spirits that did it, you know. The whore of Babylon, well, it's the spirits he's going after. The violence done to me and my flesh upon Babylon, all the inhabitants of Zion say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea, and shall Jerusalem say, therefore thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead thy cause and take vengeance for thee, day of vengeance, and dry up her sea and make her springs dry. There'll be a famine before this. And Babel shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, and astonishment, and a hissing without, and hissing without an inhabitant. Nobody will be there. They shall roar together like lions, they shall yell as lions' whelps. In their heat I will make their feasts and make them drunken. In their heat has a connotation of sex. So they're getting drunken, and they might, but it doesn't necessarily have to be with liquor or wine. It could be the cup of the wrath of the Lord. That they may rejoice and sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith Jehovah. So they might just be partying when they get hit too. And I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with the he-goats. How is Sheshach taken, and how is the praise of the whole earth? That's obviously America, not Saudi Arabia or Rome. Praise of the whole earth. Surprised. See, they're going to be surprised. How is Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? So very few of them will ever wake up, but a few are waking up. The sea has come up upon Babel. She is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. Her cities are a desolate, a dry land, and a wilderness, in a land where no man dwelleth, neither doth any son of man pass thereby. And I will punish Bel and Babel, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up. And the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babel shall fall. The only walls I know about with Babylon, with America, is between Mexico and America. That's it. There's no Canadian walls, there's no Atlantic and Pacific walls, no Gulf of Mexico walls. It's Mexico and America. So they're going to come in from Mexico, and they already are coming in from Mexico. But the Mexicans themselves are going to break the walls and come in and loot, pillage, plunder, rape, murder, and everything else. They're in on the snare. Look what's coming through the border of Mexico. They're not stopping it. My people, go ye out of the midst of her. That's, again, telling you to leave the daughter of Babylon. And deliver you every man his soul from the fierce anger of Jehovah. And lest your heart faint and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year. That shall come rumor and violence in the land. So you've had rumors about wars and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. The against would mean fighting. And a ruler, the word for ruler is mashal. It means to rule, have dominion, or reign. How does Strong's treat the word? Uses the word governor, dominion. You see, if you're the head of, some organization, religious or racial or something, that doesn't make it, okay? You got to be like an official ruler, okay? And the word against, 5921 Strong's in the Hebrew, is al. It really means on or upon. So it's ruler upon ruler, ruler. They're fighting violence. It's fighting. The only way with rulers are going to really get into fighting, I think, is succession. They're going to say, no, I'm not in your country. Don't tell me what to do. I don't want to listen to you. Therefore, behold, the days come when I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babel, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, it says, for the spoilers shall come unto her from the north, saith the Lord. The spoilers, the looters, the attackers coming from the north. It's got to be Canada. As Babel hath caused the slain of Israel to fall. You see, cause the slain of Israel to fall. October 7th and maybe more. Maybe what's happening in Gaza now and Lebanon. You got it? As Babylon, America has caused the slain of Israel. So my conspiracy theories for October 7th are supported by Jeremiah 51 verse 49, aren't they? To fall. So at Babel shall fall the slain of all the earth. Of all the land. It doesn't say earth, it land, so it could mean the land of Babylon. That's what I think. That's what Haaretz means, not earth. You that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. That's you guys. Remember Jehovah afar off, and let Yerushalayim come into your mind. We are confounded because we have heard reproach, shame hath covered our faces. For strangers are come into the sanctuaries of the Lord's house. Since there is no Lord's house now, although there could be, but I don't see it, I think this is the throwback to the original attack by the Babylonians, destroying Solomon's temple. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all the land the wounded shall groan. It's pretty gruesome. Though Babel should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet From me shall spoilers come unto her, saith Jehovah. So he's sending them to her. Now that could be the ones that are already in America, or it could be the invading armies, or both. They may go around and hit cities just to collect the spoil. A sound of a cry, the wealthy, big wealthy communities like the Beverly Hills, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, stuff like that, they're very poorly defended. It's easy to take them out. Beverly Hills has a very small police department and a tremendous amount of money. A sound of a cry cometh from Babel, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans. Because Jehovah hath spoiled Babel and destroyed out of her the great voice. That's not the Vatican. Who listens to the Vatican? The Catholics, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Muslims, the Jews, the atheists. They don't listen to the Vatican. It's a joke. It's not the Vatican. It's certainly not Saudi Arabia. Destroyed out of her the great voice. When her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered. Because the spoiler is come upon her, even upon Babel, and her mighty men are taken, every one of their bows is broken. For Jehovah El, I think it says El, yeah, of recompenses, year of recompenses, get it, we're in that year. It started on or about August 1st. That's what it's telling you here. Shall surely requite, payback. And requite payback. And I will make drunk her princes and her wise men, her captains and her rulers, and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith the King, whose name is Jehovah of armies. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, the broad walls of Babel shall be utterly broken. The broad could mean the long walls too, I think. Not that they're going to be thick where you're going to drive trucks across them, but I think it means the long walls, and that's the Mexico-America wall. And her high gates shall be burned with fire. Again, the fires. And the people shall labor in vain. And the folk, F-O-L-K, what's the word? People. Gather, community, nation, people. So, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk, which is a similar word, in the fire, and the word for fire is esh, which is fire. And they shall be weary, and people in America are already weary. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Sariah the son of Neriah the son of Maaseiah, when he went with Zedekiah the king of Judah into Babel in the 4th year of his reign, and Sariah was a quiet prince. Okay, let me go check the chat and see if we got any questions or whatever. Someone says Trump was trying to heal America. Yeah, that's a good thought. I'm not so sure, but he was, it could be, yeah. But I think it's something that's going to happen later. Not yet. I think Trump was too early. Kings of the Medes. Okay, we'll take a look at the Median Empire. That's only fair to do. I'll pull a map of it. There's probably different versions of the map, but let's see what we can find. And you got to remember that the Median Empire probably changed in size over time. So that's also another challenge when you start looking at these maps. Let's see if this helps. Many of the maps that Google has, I find are not useful. Well, no, it doesn't want to. I gotta refresh it. Oh, it's giving me trouble loading. Let's see. And this is too fuzzy to read. No. Such a simple thing, Median Empire map, and you can't find it in Google. Isn't that nice? Let's see what this is. The resolution of these things is so bad they don't give you anything to really look at. I can't orient to that one. I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe this one. Trying to find a good map. I know the Middle East maps pretty well, and I could, but it's not telling me what's the Median Empire. Yeah, it looks like it would be Turkey, probably Lebanon, maybe a little of Lebanon, and then it would be pieces of Iraq and Syria and Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. No, not that. No Kuwait. No, maybe Kuwait. And Iran and whatever countries behind Iran. It might still be Iran. But yeah, Iran is in there. Let me keep digging, okay? If I could get more clarity. Yeah, it does seem Iran pops up in there. I searching for Median Empire, and I'm getting Persian Empire. Why am I doing that? Let's try this again. Maybe it's not Iran. Let's try that again. Google decided to help me. Why do they give me? I put in Median Empire and they give me Persian Empire. It is sick. Okay, let's try seeing if we can get a list of the countries. Media ancient country of northwestern Iran, generally corresponding to the modern regions of Azerbaijan, Kurdistan, parts of Kermanshah. Okay, that's what we got there, but Iran keeps coming up. Let's find another version of this. Medes is the old Persian Meda. Okay. The west of modern Iran, capital Ekabana, modern Hamadan. You okay, Chiefy? See if this thing loads. It definitely has Iran in there. That is for sure. Another map here. I gotta get oriented. Okay. So the other map of Median Empire has Turkey and pieces of Iraq and Syria, but not too much. And Israel could be in there too, but of course that's not going to be the case today. And yeah, Iran gets in there. And yeah, I think it goes out around the Azerbaijan area. Okay, so that's it is. Yeah, Iran is in there. Iran will be attacking America. And they'll be merciless. They have been brainwashed for a long time to hate America. And their hatred runs substantial. So expect problems with that. Okay, if I have any other questions, let's go. Let's go take a look at. Hello? Hello? I think the dog made a sound like a human. Let me go take a look at the beginning of Jeremiah 50 and I'll scan through it and see if we got anything that's going to be more eye-opening. Jeremiah 53, again it says, "For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast." So beasts are going to get out too. "In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping, they shall go and seek Jehovah Elohim." That means come to Israel. "They shall ask the way to Zion," again, come to Israel, "with their faces thitherward, saying, Come and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people hath been lost sheep," that's the lost tribe. Is that you? Yeah, it must be. "Their shepherds have caused them to go astray." That's why Ezekiel 34 says the shepherds, the bad shepherds, are going to get cut off. "They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to mountain. That's country to country. They have forgotten their resting place, which is Israel. For all that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, We offend not because they have sinned against Jehovah, the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. They don't understand the 2,000-year punishment in Hosea 6:1 and 2, where Jehovah says he's turned us over to our enemies, so he doesn't intervene. But at the year of recompenses, which is now, it started August 1st, roughly, give or take a few days. Now he goes after them for this. So it's changing. Remove out of the midst of Babel and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans and be as the he-goats before the flocks. The he-goats are the tough ones, you could say. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babel an assembly of great nations, plural, from the north country. That's where they're going to come in, I guess. And they shall set themselves in array against her from thence. She shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Now, I don't know if Russia's in this attack or not. It may not be around anymore. Russia's been working against Israel behind the scenes very, very diabolically. They may meet their end before this. Remember, the axis of evil has their plans, but they don't get what they want. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith Jehovah. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, you destroyers of my heritage. That's Israel, destroyers of the heritage. America's the destroyers of the heritage. Because you are grown fat as the heifer at grass and bellow as bulls. Your mother shall be sore confounded. That's the whore of Babylon. She that bare you shall, in Revelation 17, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations, that's the most recent nation. The Lord only has 70 nations. Shall be a wilderness, a dry land, a desert, because the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babel shall be astonished, and hiss at all her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babel round about, all you that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against Jehovah. Shout against her round about, and she hath given her hand. See, this is the president surrendering. See, this is Biden's in on the snare against his own country, and he tries to surrender. So it says, shout against her round about, she hath given her hand. Her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of Jehovah. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her. She did some pretty bad stuff to Israel in October with the curse of Israel. Cut off the sower, in my opinion, cut off the sower from Babel, and him that handleth the sickle. Those are the harvest workers, the agricultural workers. In the time of harvest, for fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his own land. So a lot of the people that aren't really Americans, just working there for a while, are going to run back to their own country. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria hath devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, that's the president of the United States, hath broken his bones. Now, the word for bones is 6105. Whoops, broken his bones. It's not, that's a mistranslation. Bind fast, close the eyes, make powerful or numerous. Okay, the word, it says this king of Babel, this Nebuchadnezzar, which is the current president, it's the word for hath broken his bones. Those four words don't exist in the original Hebrew. It means to be numerous, to be mighty. To shut tightly the eyes, to shut the eyes. Shut the eyes and just let it happen. And it also means to be powerful. They tell us what to do. This is absolutely what's going on today. Therefore, thus saith, to be powerful. America's powerful, dictates to us, shuts the eyes. It doesn't pay attention. When it doesn't want to see something, it doesn't see something. It turns its back on us eventually. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah of armies, the God of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land. I have punished, as I have punished the king of Assyria, and I will bring Israel again to his habitation. Second Exodus is tied to this. He shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. Because in those days Elijah's already working, teaching the Levites how to make the offerings acceptable to the Lord. Then the blessings of the Lord come on Israel, and then through those offerings we have forgiveness of sins too, and peace offerings and things like that. Shall be sought for, there shall be none. So there's no iniquity, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found, for I will pardon them whom I reserved. So the other, maybe better explanation is this, that he's poured his spirit out on them in Zechariah 12:10, and they're all believers, and they're not sinning anymore. It could be either way or both. Yeshua gave us grace from the offerings of the law until there's a temple or a tabernacle again in Israel with the priesthood established correctly, and then we go back and do the offerings of the law. Of course, the church never figured that one out, or they don't want them to. Go up against the land of maritime, that's another word for the old Babylon, and against the inhabitants of Pekod. Don't do anything bad, be good, I'm watching. And utterly destroy after them, saith Jehovah, and do according to all that I have commanded thee. A sound of battle in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babel become a desolation among the nations? I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken. God set the snare, O Babel, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against Jehovah. The Lord hath opened his armory, and hath brought forth the weapon of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord God of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from the utmost border. That would have, I would say, that could be Hawaii, but I doubt it. It would be Alaska. Russia, China, North Korea can come into Alaska through the Bering Straits. It's, I think, 40 miles, 23 miles, something like that. And it freezes solid sometimes in the winter. Then they drop down from Alaska, which is in the north, into Canada, which is in the north, and come in that way. Against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast up her heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks, and them that go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. Okay, so we've covered that. I hope this gives you some insights. And pretty soon, maybe we'll be eating falafel here in Israel, because it's looking like it's real close. Let's see. All right, let's see what we got here. Kings in the mean. Okay, we had a praise report in there. That's good. Okay, so that's what I got. So again, please pray for my wife in this harassing lawsuit. They postponed it a few weeks. Pray that the Lord take care of that and we don't have to get railroaded or anything like that. And pray for Rivka's my wife's name. She still needs healing. Pray for her for some healing. Pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our finances. Many thanks to those giving offerings. You're feeding me to keep me going and supporting those that don't like or believe in giving offerings. They just like to get fed and not pay. They like to muzzle the ox while he treadeth the grain, me being the ox. And they don't do offerings, even though God says he loves a cheerful giver. They're covetous, and you're supporting me so I can be doing the teaching and they freeload off of you. But they're basically robbing God, and they don't believe it. But it does say that in, like, Malachi 2, for instance. But they don't believe it. They just have learned covetous, the couch potato Bible students that do nothing. They just absorb information and intel, and they're not going to make it. They don't fear God. They don't believe in God. They rob God, and they don't fear God. And that's it, you know. I'm not talking about that think I'm crazy and don't get fed by me. I'm talking about the ones that do, and at the same time don't give offerings. Oh, when they have excuses. Oh, I'm so poor I can't pay attention. And I've had people tell me they have incomes in the 6 digits and tell me they can't give offerings because they're too poor or something, you know. So I mean, it's covetousness, that's all it is. And they're robbing God, and they don't get it. They get it, but they don't fear God, so they don't care about it. They get it, but they don't care because they don't fear God. And I hope they enjoy the daughter of Babylon when it burns, you know. Maybe they'll have the cleverness to roast a few marshmallows in their last few minutes alive. They're not of us. These people that just get fed and don't give offerings, don't think they're of us. They're not of us. Their God is mammon. They're covetous. They don't believe in God. They don't believe God. They don't have faith in God. They just act like they do. Those are the tares that look like the wheat. And at the end, God pulls them out first and binds them in bundles to wait in the pit to get thrown in the lake of fire after judgment. Don't be concerned with them. That's what they are. Will you change them? Sometimes you wake people up, but a lot of times they just don't. They just are covetous, and they don't understand that. And they're not supposed to because they're not believers. They went out from among you because they were not of you. That's it. Okay. And pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray we don't have to go in the bomb shelters. And pray for better videos. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And again, thank you for the offerings, those of you that give. And it's sad that you have to support this to feed them who don't pay back. They just absorb. They don't give. Faith without works is dead. And what kind of works do they have? Okay, so thank you, and I'm out, and I think we're going to have good weather this afternoon. I'm going to try to get outside and enjoy it, and I am out.